Hello, my dear listeners. My name is Kishore Ganesh, and in this episode of the Vocal About Visuals podcast, I will be sharing my thoughts on the new outing of the superstar, the one, the only, Mr. Rajinikanth Annaatthe. For someone who is unacquainted with the phenomenon that is Rajinikanth, or Rajni in short, think about it like what Star Wars means for the Americans. For many people across the planet, Star Wars is still a tough sell. I mean, the world watches these movies, but I think the Americans feel it, and that is exactly what it is about Rajinikanth as well. The whole world might watch Rajni films, some with respect, some with confusion, some with the thought that this is a strange and weird phenomenon that is unfolding in front of our eyes, some with the intention that this will give them material to ridicule the man, his gimmicks and his style. But unless you are a Tamil, a native speaker of the Tamil language, or have been brought up in the Tamil culture, you don't feel Rajni. Well, that's a very, very short brief about my thoughts on Rajni. Moving on to Annaatthe in specific, Annaatthe is nostalgia art. It is written and shot by writer-director Shiva in a way that will harken back the memories of both past Rajni movies like Annamalai and Muthu and Shiva's movies like Vedalam and Vishwasam. The former I will watch and enjoy till the end of time. But the latter is where the problems with this movie, Annaatthe, arise. The two Rajni movies that I have mentioned worked pure and simply because they are Rajni movies. And by that I mean that Rajni movies are a genre unto themselves. This thought is shared by Shiva himself and was reiterated by him in a recent interview. So Shiva understands what Rajni and his movies are and what they mean to the audience. But by mixing the Rajni genre with Shiva's own sensibilities, the resulting product is one that is in many places at the level of the aforementioned Rajni films, and in quite a few places is very melodramatic and mega serial / soap opera-esque. And it is for this reason that the film has been panned by people exposed to a variety of cinema from across the world, and yet managed to become a box office monster. People who watch film from an enthusiast's or a cinephile standpoint might frown at this movie. But for the vast majority of people, movies are pure and simply entertainment and a form of recreation. And when you combine a festival like Deepavali with a movie from the superstar, along with the fact that theatres have opened up after close to 2 years, you essentially have all the right ingredients to create an irresistible force that pushes the audience and their families towards the theatres. And my 2 cents to the cinephiles and enthusiasts is, yes, there might be flaws in movies, and those flaws might be very evident and unoverlookable, if that's even a word, to you, because you have pursued cinema with a passion and have invested time and energy in understanding and learning about them. But above and beyond all of this is the opportunity to enjoy and to be entertained by these beautiful things called movies, if one only were to give them the chance. So take that how you will, but by being less critical about Annaatthe, I personally managed to come out of the theatres feeling 70 to 80% satisfied by this movie. And now I need to talk about things that could have been better about this film, and I'm going to start with the writing of the character of Keerthy Suresh, who plays the role of Thanga Meenakshi. Without entering the spoiler territory, the major issues with this character are: 1. There is no character arc. She starts off being a victim who gets saved by her brother and ends the film as a victim who gets saved by her brother. 2. The way some of the scenes involving this character are written and staged. These scenes, which showcase the trials and tribulations faced by this character, are written in a way that is melodramatic and staged in a manner that is extremely stale. Well, there could be an argument that the whole movie is somewhat of an old wine in an old bottle situation. So what is so problematic about these scenes? The only difference is that here we don't have the charisma of Rajni to make us forget the flaws. Beyond these 2 glaring issues, nothing else about the movie bothered to the point that I have to register them here on the pod. And now moving on to the positives, the first and foremost positive is Rajni himself. For someone who is 70 years old to continue to play the main leading man for more than 41 years is a miracle that the world seldom sees. And when I say leading man, I mean a bona fide action star. Someone who can draw crowds to the theatre purely by the strength of his star power. Annaatthe is yet another example of a movie resting squarely on the shoulders of Rajinikanth, who makes you forget all the flaws and turns the movie into an occasion, into an event. In fact, Rajini's charisma is so powerful that you choose to not only ignore the movie's flaws, but his own personal political ideologies, and turn up in the theatres as a fan, and that is unique and powerful. And in Annaatthe specifically, Rajini is truly back to form. If you are a Rajini fan, like a proper quote-unquote I grew up with these movies so I don't analyze them, I only consume and experience them type fan, you will know what I mean when I say that this is a proper Rajini movie. Well, mostly. And that Rajini is back in form. He plays this character called Kalayan, aka Annaatthe, with dignity, innocence and humor. He gets sentimental, he sheds tears, he's surrounded by actors who are just in awe of him and are just really happy to be in the same room as him. He says his punchlines, gives advice to the audience and beats up baddies with great aplomb. And to top it all, he's mischievous and flirty with both the heroine of this film, Nayanthara, and two of his former leading ladies, Kushbu and Meena, from the aforementioned movies Annamalai and Muthu respectively, who make guest appearances in this film, without this ever coming across as weird or problematic. In short, Rajini is the body and soul of this movie. The next positive is the remainder of the cast, including the 3 female actors I've mentioned above, and even Keerthy Suresh to a large extent. They've all done a phenomenal job, and in case of Keerthy Suresh, her performance cannot be faulted, just that her character has been let down by the writing. And speaking of the writing, even if this is largely a rehash of Rajini and Shiva, the directors' own movies, it is still satisfactory, except for the parts mentioned above. So all in all, Annaatthe is a proper Rajini film that, like so many of his commercial movies from the past, has been saved largely by the man himself. What I mean is, if anyone except Rajini were to do such a film, firstly, it will never work, and secondly, this analysis would have had a very different tone to it. Not because I'm a Rajini fan or that I can't be objective when it comes to these movies. That is merely a switch which I have to turn off in my head, but purely because only Rajini can properly pull off a movie like this, and which is why a Rajini film is a genre by itself. Others can ape it, but they will never ever be able to recreate the magic of it. Once again, my name is Kishore Ganesh. This is the Vocal About Visuals podcast, and thank you, my dear listeners, for your time and for listening.